Hello, I'm Harper Volk of AHS-TV, and in this segment of Best in the Nest, we will be speaking with Pennsylvania State Senator Joe Pittman in regards to the infrastructural development of Western Pennsylvania. Senator Pittman, thank you for being here. It's an honor.
Harper, thanks for having me.
Of course. Throughout the years, we've seen a lot of infrastructural development throughout the course of the new decade. Are there any projects you're particularly proud of?
Well, I think we've done a lot of improvements on the 422 corridor between Katanning and Indiana, and those have been really important, and a lot of it's safety. We just did a huge renovation to the Margaret Road interchange. The area in front of the Katanning Township Volunteer Fire Company has been a big area of improvement, but I think we have to do a lot more. There's the next segment of 422 that I think we need to deal with are what we call the Dunbar dips in that area with those climbing lanes. I think it's pretty dangerous, and I'd like to see some more improvements there. But I've really been happy with what we've been able to do to 422 over the last several years.
Yeah, I used to hear complaints from family a lot, having to go to work through, that sort of way. I haven't heard as many recently. Yeah, mostly my dad.
There were a lot of accidents, and there's still a lot of accidents on 422. We just saw that in Elderton, and so it's a tough corridor, and we have a responsibility to keep trying to make it better.
Yeah. Rapid growth of businesses and the development of new industries is essential for the continued prosperity of towns like Katanning and Ford City. Are there any new industries you see on the rise within our towns?
Well, I've seen some growth in existing industries, Harper, that I think are really important. One of the companies that I think about that's done a lot over the last few years is Burgad Specialty Foams. It's there on the intersection of Route 85 and 28. They've had some great growth over the last few years. We've seen some steady development at North Point. I'd like to see more occur there. There's a new data center entity coming in to the old Bank of New York Mellon data center site, and so I think that's going to be important. And then Rosebud Mining continues to be a huge engine for our economy, and we still get a lot of benefit from natural gas production here in the county, and those are all things that are helpful and important. But we have a lot of work to do in Armstrong County in terms of getting more businesses in here and getting them to grow faster.
Is there anything that you think, you have any predictions of what could come up or any advice for companies looking to start here?
Well, I think that there is a lot of talk about artificial intelligence in data centers. And one thing that we have in this region, the Keystone Power Plant is a good example, we have a lot of electricity grid infrastructure that's already available and accessible. And I think there's a real opportunity for us to take advantage of the need for data centers that could do a lot in our community, and not even so much from a job creation, but an investment in the capital, and that includes property taxes. When these facilities build, they pay property taxes, and that's very important to our local economy.
The location of Katanning and Ford City in relation to Pittsburgh sticks out to me as an excellent spot for families in the city to take a day trip to. What do you believe are some ways we could turn our local towns into an exciting destination for people passing through?
Well, one of the things that I think has happened that's really a benefit to Armstrong County is how much the Route 28 corridor has been improved. You're a little young to remember some of the ways that the Route 28 corridor got you in and out of Pittsburgh, and it was really congested. And that's been improved the whole way through. And I think that connectivity to Allegheny County is a big benefit to Armstrong County. But one of the things that I think those that live here take for granted is the river and what the river means to quality of life and recreation. And that river is a real gem. The walking trails that go along with it are a real benefit. And I get a lot of comments from people who don't live in Armstrong County about how much they enjoy that river. One of the things that we've worked on is to make sure that the locks and dams remain operational for boating traffic, for recreational boating. And I think that's a real key for places like Katanning and Ford City and really all the river towns to take advantage of. There's a lot of good stuff that happens with it now, but I think even more could be done.
422 is one of the most popular local roadways. We saw a considerable amount of construction on it towards the end of last year. Should we expect any more developments on that scale to our more local roads?
I think you're going to see more improvements to 422 over the years, big and small. One of the things that we have worked with PennDOT on is to fix what we call the 4-digit roads. Those are the side roads that over the years have really been neglected. And over the last 2 years, PennDOT was able to invest $10 million in paving and improving the side roads, primarily in eastern Armstrong County. And I believe they're going to do another big investment in that regard too. So getting those roads improved, I think, is really, really important.
School safety is obviously a main concern of the administration every year. Common practice for modernly built schools is to have at least 2 roads for entry and exit. As you may have noticed on your ride down here, we only have one. Would only having one road
You're fine.
Would only having one road access to our school be something that would be considered an infrastructural issue at your level?
Well, I think if the school district leadership felt there needed to be a second access road to this campus, I would be more than happy to work with them to figure out a way to make that happen.
Students and workers deal with a lot of potholes when driving to work every day. Is there any plan to rectify the increasing rate of them?
Potholes are a big problem for Pennsylvania in general. You know, we have more road miles in Pennsylvania than New York and all of the New England states do combined. So we have a huge network of roads and bridges that we have to maintain. And as we saw with this winter, we have what they call the freeze-thaw cycle. And when roads freeze and ice freezes in cracks and then they thaw and then they refreeze, it really, really beats up the roads. And so we put a lot of money in the highway infrastructure. I'm always looking for ways to be more efficient in how we use those dollars. But I do think the traveling public has to understand how complex the network is. Now, we have state roads that are managed by the state, and then we also have municipal roads that the townships and the boroughs manage too. And so those roads are their responsibility, and the state roads are the state's responsibility. But we can always do more to try to make travel smoother, but it is a really hard job here in Pennsylvania.
I see. Glade Run Road is one of the most important local roads, and it's shown to have more accidents annually than almost any other road around, especially when compared to ones that have traffic lights. Do you believe putting a traffic light in would help to alleviate the level of accidents we currently see?
I'm not sure a traffic light would alleviate that. Traffic lights can be cause for accidents too. And what I've experienced on that intersection is that if you look at the way people travel through it, if people would follow the speed limit, I don't think we'd have near the problems that we have. And so I think that a lot of this is really a speed enforcement issue. And for young drivers, your generation, even driving vehicles is so much more complicated now than it ever used to be because of cell phones and distracted driving and things of those nature. And so driver safety, to me, is really the key to this. And of course, that means speed enforcement. PennDOT has done numerous studies of Glade Run. They've come up with options for the community to consider. It seems like all of those options get some sort of pushback from the community. But what PennDOT will tell you is that when they study that intersection, they study it based on people following the law and driving at the speed that it's posted at, which I believe is 55 miles an hour. And then you get into Worthington, I think it goes down to 45. But if people obey the speed limit, I think that in of itself would make that intersection much safer.
I see. Within the last 20 years, there have been talks of putting a shopping mall in a vacant field in Worthington. Was this ever actually in the works? And if it was, what was it that stopped it?
I'm not aware of that. I think one of the things we have a challenge with here, not just in Armstrong County, but everywhere, is that the way people shop has changed so much. And if you look at a lot of the malls that exist right now, they're starting to die because a lot of people have gone online. They're not shopping as locally as they used to. And I don't know that I could see where in this current environment that a mall there would necessarily work. I mean, we have the Franklin Plaza just down the road as well. And that is a project that's really never come to my attention.
I see. A common complaint of people around my age is that there's a very limited number of things to do around here. Are there any upcoming projects that young people should be excited for?
Well, I think young people should realize what they have in their own backyard. We talked a little bit about the river and the hiking trails. Those are great opportunities for young people, I think, that maybe get taken for granted too. The Belmont Complex, I think, is something that's very important. I know ice skating and hockey is a really popular sport and activity that's taken on with your generation. I know my one daughter likes to play hockey as well, and it's a really good program to have. But I think we always need to look for other opportunities for young people to be able to do things together in recreation, and that is an area I think we could probably spend more time focusing on.
In just a hypothetical world where you could put in, say, any budget thrown out the window, if you could see one thing come up within our county, what do you think would benefit us the most for in a recreational sense?
In a recreational sense, I think the county has a very hard job in managing the Belmont Complex. It's county-owned, and it costs them a lot of money to manage it. But I think that that is a real gem that if it could perhaps have additional ice pads, ice space, and other recreational things, that could really become a hub of recreation in the county.
There was a seminar I attended in which they were discussing expansions to the Belmont. There were talks of a splash pad put in. There were talks of, I believe they brought up reopening the driving range there. And there was a few very interesting ideas I heard put forward. Has that been brought to your attention at all?
Well, I have worked with a lot of county commissioners over the years to try to do things to renovate the Belmont to keep it viable, because again, it's a hard thing that I don't envy the county commissioners for having to deal with, because on one hand, as we're talking, communities want and need recreational opportunities. On the other hand, it costs money to do that. And that of course becomes a burden to the county commissioners to make sure that those dollars are available. I've always been willing to support grants to try to renovate the Belmont or to do different things with that whole complex, and I'd be more than happy to continue to do it. But I do think, as you're saying, Harper, it's a great asset in the community that we could probably add to.
Many people from Armstrong County feel compelled to look for jobs in far places. What are some jobs that you feel Armstrong County residents should give more consideration towards?
Right now, I have never seen a labor market as full of opportunity as it is today over the last decades that I've been around this region. There are all kinds of opportunities, and the thing that your generation has that my generation didn't is you have other pathways other than going to college. You know, when I graduated in the mid-90s, the mantra was, you got to go to college. College has great opportunities, plenty of opportunities, but it doesn't have to be that way. The trades are really, really looking for a new generation to come in and learn how to be plumbers, to learn how to do HVAC, to run heavy equipment, machining, all of those kinds of skills. And a lot of the talents there are now more modernized. You have to have some savvy with electronics and almost computer games, the way some of these new technologies work. And so I think that that's an area where your generation needs to be very open to exploring, because if you don't have to go to college and you can get a family-sustaining job, either with some technical training after high school or even going right out of high school into technical fields, I think that's something everybody has to keep an open mind to.
So would you support the statement that there could be more benefits to not going to college and going straight to the, either workers union or learning those trades than there could be to someone who actually goes to college?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where I think your generation has opportunities that previous generations around here haven't, because you have more options. If you want to go to college and you want to pursue a degree in something, you certainly have that opportunity. We have a lot of higher education entities around us, IUP, Clarion, some of the Penn State networks, Pitt, all of that's available, but the trades are also readily available. I'm really a fan of what Lenape Tech does. I think that they are actually, dealing with overcapacity at the school. A lot of kids are wanting to get into their programs and they don't have room for them. To me, we've got to address that, because if kids see opportunities, we need to give them a chance to make the most of them.
I agree with that statement. What are some projects people may not know about that you're excited to see come to fruition?
One of the things that I've been really excited about is the Historical Society in Katanning has done a lot of work in their neighborhood. There's some really neat old train stations there in the downtown that I think could really be made into something pretty neat, unique. The riverfront is going to undergo a major renovation in Katanning. We're talking about doing some more downtown revitalization in those communities. But there's also some really neat things going on in every area of the county that sometimes people don't realize. They're almost hidden in plain sight. And I really think Armstrong County has a unique geographic position with their proximity to Allegheny County, their proximity to Butler, the road network and the river network that are a real good opportunity going forward.
I see. At this point, you spent a considerably long time as a senator. Would you believe that people are satisfied with your tenure thus far?
Well, I was very fortunate to be reelected in November of 2024. That is a very humbling experience for me to know that the residents of this district elected me to serve them in the state senate. And so I take that 4 years of a term essentially as a contract. And if I choose to run again in 2028 and the voters choose to return me to Harrisburg, then I'll know that they are at least somewhat satisfied with the work that I've tried to do. And if they do not, then I fully understand that's their decision. That's a lifetime away, particularly in politics, but whenever the people entrust you to this office, it's very humbling, and I hope that's an indication that they at least support the efforts I make for the community.
You were recently elected to be the Senate Majority Leader. How does that differ from exclusively being a senator?
It's a lot more responsibility, and so when you look at the Senate, there are 50 members of the state Senate. Each of our districts represent about 255,000 people. So the district I represent is very large. It's all of Armstrong County, it's all of Indiana County, it's southern Jefferson County around the Punxsutawney area, and then northern Westmoreland County. I stretch from Ligonier through Derry, through Vandergrift into New Kensington and Lower Borough in the city of Arnold, among all the other areas in between. So that's my first responsibility, to represent that district. But in that 50-member Senate, there are 28 Republicans and 22 Democrats, and I am in the Republican caucus. And so the 28 of us, every 2 years, elect leadership, and they elected me to serve them as their majority leader. And so that additional responsibility means that I have to work with the other 27 members of the Senate Republican majority to understand what their priorities are, what their needs are, and then try to address those needs, and then work with the governor and work with the majority leader in the House to figure out how we reconcile differences and govern the state. It's a very diverse state. We have members from our caucus from Erie to the city of Philadelphia and all points in between, and everybody's priorities are different. And that's what makes Pennsylvania a pretty unique place. We are, in the world of politics, the purplest of purple states, which translates also into Harrisburg and figuring out how to balance governing. But it's a lot of work. It's work that I enjoy, and it's basically me not only serving the constituents that I was elected to represent, but to serve the other 27 members that elected me to be their majority leader.
I see. Recently, there was a change in the federal administration. How does that affect operations at the state level?
Well, every federal administration affects state operations. Depending on what president has come in, what their priorities are, and what their belief is in how the federal government should operate, impacts the states. Sometimes the federal government mandates us to do certain things. Sometimes the federal government gives us dollars to do certain things. And it all depends on what the priorities are of the president and the Congress at any given time. Obviously, President Trump is newly reelected. He's been very aggressive, I think, in doing what we really need to do, which is figure out how to right-size the federal government. I have not seen any material impacts at the state level, certainly nothing negative at this point. Obviously, it's early, but we're prepared to work with the Trump administration and our members of Congress that represent us in Washington, D.C., to make sure the right thing happens for the people of the state.
does the administration, does it look like a promising outfit? Do you think we could really benefit from what has come in?
From my vantage point, I do. Obviously, I am a supporter of President Trump. That does not mean that everybody sees things the way I do, and I respect that. But the reality is he is the elected president of the United States. In my opinion, his policies, particularly whenever it comes to energy production and the use of our God-given natural resources, that is very important to our economy. We have a lot of natural gas here. We have a lot of coal here. Those are key to making sure that we keep our energy independence in the United States. And as I've talked a lot, whenever you look at energy independence, that's also a national security issue. And all you have to do is look at what has happened in Europe over the last 3 or 4 years with Ukraine and Russia and the rest of Europe. They're not energy independent, and that lack of energy independence has really put them in a tough situation because a lot of their energy until that war came from Russia.
Yeah. There have been rising concerns over the rapid increase in low-income housing, leading to a more rapid decline in the quality of life within Katanning and Ford City. Ultimately, lowered property values they're a result of that. Are there actions that you feel could be taken to combat this issue, akin to programs that tend to fight urban blight?
Blight is a big issue, and Armstrong County has done a very good job with something they call their land bank, which is designed to get abandoned properties demolished and hopefully reused for something positive. Blight, because of our population decline, is a real significant issue throughout the county. And so that's an area where we have been very focused on. We've made some progress there, but there's a lot more to do. I think we've done a very nice job over the years. If you look at the old IUP campus that was in downtown Katanning, if you look at where the Katanning Junior High was, we brought in some very nice housing projects there that were for seniors. They're essentially senior housing, which were great additions to the community, I think, because they brought people into the town. Those properties went onto the tax rolls, so they now pay a property tax, and it's helped bring a little bit of a consumer drive to the area. But we've got to figure out a way to keep and retain younger families, because when we talk about population decline, that really affects everything else that we've just discussed. And we've got to figure out a way to make sure people understand there's value in living in Armstrong County.
Yeah, I've always been of the opinion that keeping property values at a high level will, in turn, benefit every industry that we see within our county. Therefore, I agree. I think keeping young families within the area who actively wish to keep their property value up and fight for the nicest neighborhood they can have is definitely it's something we should attempt to keep in our view.
You're absolutely right, and that's why, again, this land bank and the issues of blight are so important, because if you have a home in Katanning and you're maintaining it and you're keeping it nice, and you have a home next to you that's abandoned and dilapidated, that takes away from the value of your property. And so getting those out of the market is really important, because it not only fixes the property that house is on, but it also benefits the neighborhood.
Now that we've made it this far, I would like to show you a video. We interviewed various students at Armstrong High School to see their thoughts on our county. If you'd be all right with it, I'd like to go over their thoughts with you, and maybe we can discuss some points they brought up.
Good.
If you'd like, let's take a closer look.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Miley Lorgan of AHS-TV, and today we're going to Mr. Cloak's room to interview his government students. As a student soon to leave Armstrong, what are some things you care about in our county?
I'd mainly say my family, my friends, just people who I've known my whole life.
I care about the community. It's very tight-knit. You kind of feel at home when you're around here, and I just like everything about it.
I care about maybe spending management in, through like our state and local government, and the upkeep of maybe the small businesses around the area.
I care about like the Belmont, to be honest. I feel like there should be another rink because there's a lot of games going on there, but they are real late, and then kids come in school late, and then they just don't get all the work they can have done.
I agree with Max, but I think it'll be better for like bringing in more teams and making the Belmont more money, because the pool is barely used because everybody has their own.
That Side note, that would also make the county more money because it's a county thing also.
Are there any issues that affect you on the daily that someone like the senator we're interviewing could help to fix?
Only thing I can really think of is potholes around here. We need to fix a bunch of them. That's really all I can think of.
Definitely more businesses brought into this county. I feel like there's just not enough since the plate glass factory left in the 90s, and it's the population's been decreasing since then. I know in Fort City that the renters to homeowners ratio is much higher. I think the renters is 51% and the homeowners is 49% people. So we have more renters and there's not enough businesses, and people are traveling further to work and leaving Fort City and Armstrong County area.
Yeah, he could take maybe our little minute problems and take them, to a higher level of government, so we could get a quicker change, maybe a better change. He could fix that kind of stuff.
Well, there you have it, folks. Straight from the Hawks Beak, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Miley. So obviously, we just went over some of the issues here. Were they about what you expected, or?
Yeah, they were about what I expected. It is pothole season, and so I understand why everybody's frustrated with that. But once the season gets cleared out, we'll be able to get some of those fixed and caught up. The comments about the Belmont I thought were very important because, as we talked a little earlier in the program, recreational opportunities are really key. And so to hear your generation thinking about that in the context of the Belmont is helpful. And the population decline and the need for more businesses is really important. I think we have to take a look back to how much, particularly in the 80s and 90s, we lost in terms of manufacturing and coal mining jobs. And it's just so hard to recover when you lose those many jobs all at one time. And we have made some progress, but boy, we got a lot more to do because we're still seeing that population decline. And it's always a little bit of everything. It's quality of life, it's economic opportunity, it's good infrastructure, and I think we've done some good work on all of those, but we got to keep at it.
As far as the comments made by Ben Fennell in that he brought up the renters, outpacing the amount of people actually buying their houses in Ford City. I think it was 51 to 49%. Do you think that is an indication of something we should be worried about?
I think we should be concerned about that. I think there's something to be said for home ownership. As we like to point out, that's really the American dream, right?
Yeah.
It should be everybody's goal. So we have to figure out how to make that affordable. Interest rates are always a challenge on that front. The cost of repairing homes, the cost of building homes is very, very expensive. And so it's natural that people will rent initially when they're just getting started, but we really do need to get people to focus on wanting to own a home. And we have an obligation to figure out ways to keep the tax burden low and to make it attractive for people to own a home.
Looking through, I think that covers just about every topic I wanted to go over. Do you have any closing remarks or statements you'd like to make?
Well, I would just say, Harper, I appreciate this is, I believe, my third or fourth year coming to the Nest, and I really enjoy this experience because it's a great opportunity for the students here at Armstrong High School to have the ability to learn how media works, to learn what it means to be in a bit of a journalism point of view. And not all schools have this kind of opportunity. This is a beautiful campus, this is a beautiful school, and it's something that not only the students, but really the residents of the school district should be very proud of.
Well, I speak for all of the community when we say we appreciate you working with us to come in and do these interviews, help residents gain insight on things that are actually going on within their county, developments, and just your state of mind working with us.
Well, thanks. That's my
Right.
job. It's my pleasure, and I'm glad for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Joe Pittman, for joining us today to get the Hawk's Eye view on infrastructural development and other various state-level concerns. Until next time, I'm Harper Volk of AHS-TV. Keep on soaring.